Hi, I'm Brent Lyles with Chicken Hill Solutions and NYOS Charter School. I'm back with part 2 of our 6-part series of short videos on grants and grant writing. In the first video, we answered the question, what is a grant? And we talked about the 4 parts of a good grants program. The first part was planning, and that's the subject of this short video. When you're planning a program, I always like to start with evaluation. Now, often that's an afterthought, or people don't put much plans together for the evaluation, but that's a shame because evaluation is really the core of how you demonstrate your impact. If you're going to be applying for a grant, you want to make sure that at the end of that grant period, you're able to show that grantor, here's what we did, and here is how your money made a difference in the world. So evaluation is the way you do that. And evaluation can also help inform the structure of your program. For instance, if you know that you want to show changes on A, B, and C, you can help put together your program so that it is addressing A, B, and C, right? Those may be quantitative measures, they may be qualitative measures, it may be a combination of both. But evaluation is so key to being able to run and get grant funding for a successful program. The second question after evaluation is, how do you know that you're meeting a need? It's not usually enough just to say, well, we've been doing this work for a while and we've seen this need, so we're going to create this program to address it. It's really helpful to be able to have some objective measures that demonstrate that need as well. For instance, maybe your community has done some assessments of homelessness or something like that, and then you can say, here's the data that shows a need for our program. Maybe there's an expert in the field that you can quote, or maybe there's an academic journal article that you can insert a quote from. Maybe there's best practices that are published that have to do with the kind of programming that you're doing. Anything like that that can show that the program that you're doing is really needed in your community. After evaluation and meeting a need, of course, you get down to the nitty-gritty details. And your program plans should be so excruciatingly detailed that it is painful to have to recite them all. Like, you should know this backwards and forwards. And it's not just the details of like, well, who all is going to get served and what are the materials that are needed and who is the deliverer of those services. It's also all the peripheral stuff, like let's say you have a program that involves an outdoor component. What are the contingency plans if it rains? Like, that should be part of your plans. Sometimes a program will have a public education aspect and you need to have a marketing component to it. What kind of marketing are you going to do and who's going to design that marketing campaign? You know, another piece might be, how are you going to recognize the donor? Not every grantor is going to want recognition for their grant, but some of them do, and why not, right? It should be great to say to the world, hey, look at the great thing this grantor has done by funding this program of ours. So put those plans together as well. Will the grantor be recognized on your website or social media or through a newsletter? How will you recognize that grantor? And then, of course, it's the budget, right? And the budget is going to have all sorts of different pieces in it, and that should all be planned out ahead of time, not just staffing and materials, but all the little stuff that might come into play as well. Now, I've definitely, having spent most of my career in nonprofits, I've definitely seen a tendency among nonprofit professionals and among teachers for sure. I can do that for just this much money. It won't cost me hardly anything at all. Don't sell yourself short, because the last thing you want to do is get halfway through that program and find out that you didn't ask for enough money to complete it, right? So when you're putting together that budget, don't estimate low. If you have to do some wiggling, estimate a little bit high, and that way you'll have a little bit extra in case you need it. All right, so we've talked about the evaluation, we've talked about meeting a need, we've talked about planning all the details of your program, and we've talked about the budget. In our next video, we're going to talk about the second step of that grants program, which is research. Once you've got your great plans together, how do you find those grant opportunities that are going to be a really good fit for your program?